had some good teams and they've won some games, but my issue with Matt Painter isn't winning in the first and second round. It's getting to a Final Four.
This is Sharp Money with Patrick Meagher on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Oftentimes in college football and basketball, we're constantly talking about the coaches. The coaches dominate. Coaches, if you think about college football right now, and it's probably exacerbated because of the transfer portal, but the biggest stars in college football are the coaches. You know, Saban stepped away. It was bigger news than anything that would happen with a player. And then the college coaches as well. There's a multitude of reasons. College coaches are remarkably affable. That you have to watch yourself, because if you wore a watch to meet them, they may take it from you. They could be shady, but they're great salesmen. They're always, gregarious, and they tend to dominate the landscape because they stay as their players cycle. So what we thought we'd do is talk about the John Beilein correlative. John Beilein, if you ask any college basketball coach right now who's the best in-game tactician, they'll probably say Beilein. You remember Beilein, West Virginia with Pittsnogle, and then Michigan, Canisius, and Richmond. Beilein's just a whiz. Now, it didn't work out with the Cavs, but he never felt like an NBA coach anyway, big guy. So what we did is first, let me rip through the best coaches ATS-wise in the tournament this year. Okay, then we'll get to our top 5 coaches to back. Dana Altman, everybody knows it, up at Oregon, that great run through the Pac-12 conference tournament. He's 15-6-1. He's been at Oregon forever. He was at Creighton prior to it. 2, this one will surprise, Calipari, 32-24-3. Okay, number 3, as far as the best coaches ATS-wise in the tournament. John Grossi. Remember, Grossi was at Illinois. He's been at Akron forever. He's 7-1 ATS. Hubert Davis. This one's fascinating because Hubert Davis, his first year, made it to the finals. Last year, didn't make the tournament. However, Hubert Davis is 6-0 ATS. And Dan Hurley, your champ from last year with UConn, is 9-3 ATS. Okay? Now, the worst coaches in the tournament as far as ATS. Rick Barnes, not sure if it's the worst overall, but since 2005, since Rick Barnes and Matt Painter are kind of the lightning rods here, big guy, since 2005, Rick Barnes is 9-21 ATS. Now, if you go through his resume, it's not as bad as you think it is because he's been coaching forever, but since 2005, it's not great for Barnes in Tennessee, 9-21 ATS. Surprisingly here, Matt Painter and his career at Purdue in the tournament, 19-13 ATS. So very profitable regardless of what you say.
Yeah, look, he's had some good teams and they've won some games, but my issue with Matt Painter isn't winning in the first and second round. It's getting to a Final Four.
Okay. You want me to go first or you want to go first? I guess I'll go first.
You're up. You go first.
Okay. Patrick's top 5 college basketball coaches to back. This is just, and I had a hard time with the ranking, but it was easy for me to come up with my 5. So we'll go ahead and throw up the graphic, and we'll start with number 1 on the list. This one may surprise a little bit, but Mark Few. All right, let's go ahead and show it up there, and then we can get into this. He picked up his 700th win this year, Few at Gonzaga, which is hard to do. 24 years at Gonzaga. Let's go ahead and throw that graphic up there, and we can show him the list there. Big guy, why don't you go ahead and have him throw that little graphic up. There we go. 24 years at Gonzaga, 24 straight tournament appearances. Now, we constantly talk about his bad conference, Dustin, but conference be darned, because the last 8 seasons, he's made it at least to the Sweet 16. So that's ridiculous. Once we get on even level, like a level playing field, Few ultimately delivers. National champion runner-up in both 17 and 20. So not only does he get out of that whack conference into the tournament, but he's made 2 finals, and then the Elite 8 last year. 5 seed, probably overseeded this year. But Mark Few, the resume speaks for itself. Next one on my list, Dustin, is Bill Self at Kansas. So 2 national championships at Kansas. But how about this? Illinois and Tulsa. He took Tulsa to the Elite 8. 3 years at Illinois. Bill Self, Elite Eight, Sweet 16 in just 3 years there. Now, you can look up and down. Maybe he's underachieved because of the talent he's had at Kansas. But Bill Self will end up, if he goes for another 15 years, as the greatest college basketball coach of all time. Number 3 big guy on my list. I could have put him 1. We said he's 15-6-1, Dana Altman in the tournament, and he's a wizard. I was going to say with a bullet, but again, the last 3 years has been down for Oregon. The 10 prior at Oregon, a Final Four appearances, 2 Elite Eight appearances, and 5 Sweet 16. Dana Altman's a whiz. Tom Izzo, yeah, we don't love the Michigan State team this year, but it's hard. He's got 700 wins. It's hard to avoid what he's done because oftentimes Michigan State's going to be a 5 seed or above, and he's had 7 Final Four appearances since 2000 when he won a national championship. So he's 49-21 straight up in the tournament. Izzo gets to March, and Izzo wins. And then finally on my list, Houston and Kelvin Sampson. I mean, I love Sampson. Sweet 16 last year. How about the year before? Elite 8. How about the year before? Final Four. So again, last year, Sweet 16 with Houston. The year before, Elite 8. The year before that, the Final Four. At Oklahoma, he took Oklahoma to a Final Four and an Elite 8. This guy is freaking awesome. I can't even imagine a practice with Kelvin Sampson because he goes so hard. And I think Houston's going to win it all this year. So those are my 5. Coaches to back this year. Few, Self, Altman, Izzo, Sampson.
A segment ago, you talked about there's always like a team that makes it into the tournament that's not supposed to be there that can go on a run. Doesn't Dana Altman in Oregon, with his 15-6-1 against the spread tournament record, feel like a guy who could take a team that shouldn't be here and go on some sort of run?
Absolutely. And again, it's been a down 3 years for Oregon. This year, the improbable run through a bad Pac-12 conference tournament. But the 10 years prior, like I mentioned, a Final Four, 2 Elite 8, and 5 Sweet 16 appearances. That's not bad for Mr. Altman. Let's go, big guy. You're up.
All right, my first guy up on the list is Dan Hurley, obviously defending national champ. Since getting to UConn, 60.3 against the spread, 8-4 record overall in the national tournament. I don't know if you know this, but where I grew up, the Bob Hurley senior camp was a big deal. I thought I was going to go, and my dad sat me down and said, basketball's not my sport, so he wasn't going to pay for it. So I never got to go attend the camp and meet Dan Hurley in person because he used to work it. All right, second, I love this guy. Another family in coaching, and that's Scott Drew at Baylor. 53.4% against the spread while he's been at Baylor, 64.7% overall win rate. He's been there since 2003. That blew my mind when I looked it up. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year. He's won a title, 3 Elite 8s, 5 Sweet 16s, and his teams can just always bring it. Always has NBA talent. My next on my list.
He just kind of looks like a donk, right? Disheveled all the time,
he
sweaty,
looks like a southern,
ill-fitting shirts, hair all over the place.
He looks like the southern frat boy who's in charge of the keg.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah, you're right. Who's next?
Greg McDermott at Creighton. I'm a big Creighton guy. Have been, everyone knows it, for a long time. Greg McDermott, going back to when he had his son Doug on the squad, 54% against the spread career. 63% win rate. He's made 6 of the last 7 tournaments coming out of the Big East. That's pretty impressive considering what we're dealing with this year with the controversy of the Big East only getting 3 teams in. I like his teams because they always shoot, they always defend, and he usually has a really good starting lineup. The depth is a question. And then finally, the last 2 on this list, Fred Hoiberg. He's got Nebraska all the way back. His team shoot. He always has good guard play. 53.9% against the spread in his career going back to Iowa State and now at Nebraska. If he could get things going there with his coaching abilities, the way he runs his offense, I like backing Fred Hoiberg. And finally, this guy's tough, Randy Bennett at St. Mary's. Because when his teams are really good, I love them. But there's a lot of times where they make the tournament and you're like, this isn't a special St. Mary's team. There's always an international flavor. For a while, it was like New Zealand and Australia. This year, they got a guy from Lithuania who's one of their best players. But I like Randy Bennett's team because they have the characteristics I look for this time of year. And that is they defend and they shoot threes. And that's my 2 favorite things when it comes to the NCAA tournament. So that's my 5.
I like your list. That's a very good list. Dan Hurley, Scott Drew, Greg McDermott, Fred Hoiberg, and Randy Bennett. And you were at a disadvantage because I gave my top 5 first.
Yeah, but I prefer to be at a disadvantage because I don't want to say any of the good guys.